Welcome back to another episode of Born Again Bow Hunting Podcast. It is officially deer season, which is kind of hard to believe.
It's amazing, honestly, how it doesn't seem real.
No.
Like, it really... And we've already been in the tree once, and it still doesn't feel real.
No.
Like, it's just... Can't believe it's here. Can't believe... As we both just set our phones on the ground. Can't believe that it's here. Can't believe that season's, especially in Ohio, right around the corner.
Yeah.
I feel so unprepared this year. But we've talked about it. It's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. You said you feel unprepared, but yet at peace about it.
So good.
You're not scrambling. You're not frantic about anything.
No. And what we were talking about, just real quick for the listeners, this is the first year in 3 or 4 years that I've not chasing a giant, and it feels really good. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no stress, there's no pressure. I'm really looking forward to just going to the woods and just enjoying God's creation. Instead of worrying about this or worrying about that or how I'm going to access this. I'm still going to hunt smart, but it's going to be nice to just be like, well, Kevy, you're on a good one. I'll come film you. Jerry, same thing. Like, I don't feel the pressure of every moment I need to go and try to put effort towards.
Yeah, is he on my property? How is he using it? How do I need to do it? Oh, the wind's right. I got to go now. I got to take a day off work. That type of stuff. Yeah. But we are in Kentucky. This will be part of the semi-live series for Kentucky this year, 2024. Matt has a tag. I am filming, and we're down here at camp with the Simon Brothers Outdoors. Luke is filming for them. Isaac is not at camp.
Yeah, loser.
Caleb and Ethan both have tags. So I believe Caleb and Luke have to leave tomorrow, and then Isaac will be here.
Well, technically today.
Man, why do I keep saying Isaac? I don't know.
Ethan
will still be here until Monday, I believe.
Yeah, Ethan's staying with us in camp until Monday. Luke and Caleb are leaving after they actually packed up. We're recording this on a Sunday, so season opened on Saturday. We technically got here Friday night, so we've shared a couple days of camp with them, but they have to work on Monday, and they're packing up and they're leaving after their scouting mission midday. It's probably around noon, 1 o'clock right now as we're recording this. So, so we shared camp with them. They had a really cool encounter. If you want to listen to that podcast, please check out their stuff at Simon Bros Outdoors. The Deer Shot Podcast is what that podcast is, and they also have a good YouTube channel, so check that out. But before we get into the podcast, we'll go through an ad read real quick, and then we'll get into what happened with Kentucky.
Yeah.
We'll try to keep this real quick.
Yeah. So we'll start off with WiseEyes. I know my WiseEyes have been going off pretty crazy right now. We got some pretty cold temperatures back home and down here. So if you guys would like to add some cameras to your arsenal this year, or even upgrade what you already have, and you want to save a little bit of money, use code BORNAGAIN, and that'll save you 10% off at checkout on the Datacam 2s and the Mini 2s. I don't know if they have any original Datas left.
I'm not sure. I haven't got on their website in a minute. But yeah, if they do, then that camera's just as good. I've got plenty of them that are still chugging along. So next would be Premier Outdoors. With season right around the corner, I'm sure a lot of people are, got a list, me included. Every year you kind of go through your list of, okay, what do I need, et cetera. But Premier has basically anything that you'll need for hunting season in stock. A wide variety of boots, from Crispies to Loas to Kenetrex to whatever. All the mobile gear, saddles, etc. WiseEye cameras. They got everything. So you guys can use code. I'm sorry, I can't read the
Born
computer.
Again 2024.
Yep, thank you. Born Again 2024 for 10% off at checkout, and that excludes firearms, Matthews bows, thermals, and anything that's currently on sale.
Correct. Next, we have Kudu Point Broadheads. We just got our shipment of broadheads. We need to shoot them, verify. You've already done that.
Thank you, Andy.
Yes, you've already been shooting yours to verify because you are a tag holder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you changed yours up a little bit this year. In the past, you have had a 125 or even a 150 with bleeders. This year, you went down
always a 150.
Always a 150?
Yep.
Oh, I thought it was 125.
Nope. This is the first year I've dropped down to a 125.
Okay. But without a bleeder too.
Without a bleeder.
Yeah.
And there's no rhyme or reason.
Well, you're wanting to get your arrow weight down a little bit this year, so that's why you got...
That's why I went to the 125.
Yes.
I cut my weight a little bit. But also, the bleeder, non-bleeder thing, I don't know. I just want to try something a little different this year. I've been running bleeders for the last 3 years. There's nothing wrong with them. They do a fantastic job. But this year, I was just like, you know what? You know what it was, honestly? This is my superstition. So, to be completely frank, and not to go down too far of a rabbit hole, but I had sighted in my bow with non-bleeders, and they fly exactly the same. I've tested it. I've done it. But, so I had an old pack of 125s laying around that I wanted to use for my practice heads, and I wanted to use the new heads for hunting. So I sighted in with non-bleeders, and what happened was my OCD or my... it's not OCD necessarily, but
paranoia.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, well, I can't shoot bleeders now because, and that's technically why. So,
gotcha.
So I'm shooting non-bleeders this year only because I'm crazy.
But if you want to,
yeah, go ahead.
If you would like to purchase some Kudu points and save a little bit of money there, you can use BB24 lowercase, and that'll save you 12% off at checkout.
Last but not least, we've got Rogue Bowstrings. Shout out our boy Justin. He always takes care of us and a really good dude. I'm sure that they are just absolutely swamped with string orders right now, and I'm only guessing that.
Well, he made a post the other day, too, on his personal page. Yeah.
Gotcha. So they probably are swamped. I'm only guessing because right before season, everybody's always trying to get their stuff taken care of. So, you know, if that's you who needs a new string this year and you haven't ordered it, please try to get in there as soon as possible and talk to Justin, and he'll get you taken care of.
Yeah.
But if you want to save some money at checkout, you can use Born Again 20 for 20% off.
And you got to remember, these are custom-made strings to your bow, so don't think that they're going to have just 50 of them for your bow sitting on the shelf. So when you order it, expect a little bit of a delay because they are hand-making these things.
Yep. And as you guys probably just heard, the big old truck just drive by. We are actually sitting on the porch of our cabin right now that we've got rented for the next couple of days here in Kentucky. Normally we always pull down the camper and just kind of rough it, but with this year being only a 3-day adventure, you know, and the Simon Bros were coming down, they had already booked the cabin. We were just like, hey, we'll throw some money at you and we'll crash on the couch. So that's basically what happened.
Yeah, plus for a 3-day thing, bringing the camper down, getting it hooked up, water, all that stuff, it's a lot of work. It is.
It's a lot of work for 3 days, so it's nice to basically just stay at an Airbnb that's, you know, within an hour's drive of where we're hunting, and we're out there hunting. So let's get into the meat and taters of the podcast. Where also, you know, maybe somebody's watching this on YouTube. This is actually the start of our first. It'll be our first video back into filming. Now, I will like to say that there will be some episodes that will air after this that we recorded at like the Mobile Hunter Expo, or we recorded in the studio where we weren't running the camera. But this year, this hunting season, we're going to try to really step up our game on the podcast, and we've got some exciting news down the pipe that we probably won't share until after the Kentucky series is over, and it's like in black and white. But we've got some really exciting news in regards to the podcast and just the growth of the podcast, and you know, it's all thanks to you guys. So thanks for listening, and thanks for tuning in every week.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
let's go over Friday night.
Friday night. Oh yeah. We'll start Friday night.
Yeah, we got down here Friday night. Drove around a little bit, and we have a couple spots where we can hunt. Checked them out. A couple of them look good. A couple of them maybe. So typically this time of year, you're hunting over a food source, which happens to be beans for us.
Yep.
And a couple of the food sources, the bean fields, had already turned too far gone for the deer to be actively feeding in them consistently.
Correct.
So we did scout that a little bit, kind of wrote that off. We did go there the next morning just to put eyes on it to verify. Yeah. And we seen one doe and fawn on the field edge, not even interested in the beans, period.
Yeah.
So we are, I guess, more limited this year than years past as far as where we can hunt and morning hunts, evening hunts, that type of stuff. So the other property that we have permission on has a phenomenal bean field right now, and we've seen deer in it every night.
Yeah. So in the past, like to echo off of what Kevin was saying, we've had a few farms, and I I was thinking about this. I was going to say something on the Simon Brothers podcast, but it never got brought up, so I'm glad it kind of didn't, so it's new on ours. Normally, every year we've got 4, 5, 6 farms that we can hunt down here, and this is the first year in a long time that we've kind of just narrowed it down to 2. Unfortunately, and I kind of want to echo on like how hard it is to get permission. I'm not saying that I couldn't get every single farm back, but there's, like, I know 2 of the farms. The one lady said that she gave permission to somebody else, and then the other property that we used to hunt, we called it the cemetery. There was an old, like, cemetery on top of the hill, and that's just what we referred it to. But she and her husband actually built there was like a meadow on top of their property, and they had a good chunk of real estate, but they built a house right on top of where
kind of central of the
where
property.
we hunt.
Yeah.
So I told her, she had told me last year that would be the last year we'd be able to hunt it. So I never even stopped, and but she was a really nice lady, and she'll never listen to this, but like it was kind of frustrating in a way that. So there's 2 properties right there that we lost, and then the 2 that we had, the one's not producing for us because for one they switched crop rotation on us, and I talked to the farmer, and it's the first time in like 7 years that he's put corn in where he did, and normally it's beans, and there's almost like a guarantee that you can get a crack at one on that front field in front of that building, and now, with it being corn, you can't see into it. So it's like, and we're limited to where we can hunt. We can't just step 20 yards into the wood line because that's not the property that we had permission to be on. So, we were joking with Simon Brothers last night about how, you have to walk a thin line when you're filming. But in reality, just being a good person and being ethical and being responsible and mature in your decisions, like, I'm never going to shoot a deer that's over the property line. No matter how big he is, I'm never going to do something that, I think is wrong. And we'll get into that later on in the podcast about we glassed a buck, and we'll get into that later. But basically, we glassed a really nice buck that we could have put a really good spot and stalk on, but he was on the neighbors by like 30 yards. So it's like, But enough of me rambling. Back to basically, long story short, the property that we were banking on for morning hunts is now no more, because what we could do is we could get to where they wanted to be midday, so like we could be in between them and where they wanted to go back bed. Now the other property that we hunt in the evenings, the really good bean field, that's only an evening spot, because the way you access it, you cannot get to them without bumping them. So, unfortunately, we had a plan coming down here of, okay, at Farmer A, we're hunting in the morning, Farmer B, we're hunting in the evening. Well, Farmer A rotated a bunch of his crops, and his beans are browner than brown.
He probably got them in super early, too.
Yeah. So they're done. There's no green. There's one little section of green, but we glassed it hard, and the deer they've avoided it. I think the majority of the field has turned, so they've moved on somewhere else. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but so morning hunts are pretty slow for us if we even go out, to be honest. We went out the first evening and glassed, but I think going forward we might Monday, which would be tomorrow, we'll probably throw a morning sit at the Farmer B that has the good bean fields, just because it'll be our last day in camp. But so going back to Farmer B, who has the good bean field, Friday night we glassed up 3 bucks.
3 bucks.
2 of them 100% shooters. The one was just a decent 2.5-year-old, but like 2, I mean,
no doubt about it, you're
without a doubt you're grabbing your bow if you're out of state. We're talking, the one was probably 110 to 120, and then the other one was, pushing that 130, 140 mark. We did only be able to glass them at like 400 yards, so you can't really tell how big they were to be exact, but just a guess, and kind of, that's cool, little hummingbird. Just to paint the picture for everyone on how big they were. They were out-of-state shooters. 3.5-year-old plus deer. So that's kind of our goal down here, is something of that caliber. And we glassed them on the property that we had permission to hunt. Obviously, it wasn't season yet, so we couldn't go after them, but we came up with a game plan for Saturday, and it worked to an extent. And go ahead, Kev.
So I was going to say, previously, what we've kind of done in this property is set up on the best area that you feel they're going to use it, and come out in the beans and feed and get a shot on them there.
Yep.
This year, we kind of decided, hey, we're going to be here for
3 days,
a limited amount of time,
yep,
right to start with, and we need to be more aggressive. And from talking to people on podcasts and stuff like that, that's kind of like an early season tactic.
Yep.
Especially in this kind of style hunting.
Yep.
So what we decided was we were going to do like an observation sit, more or less, get as high as what we can to glass as much as we can. When a buck that would come out and that we feel like we want to shoot, we would kind of locate them, get down the tree, and then put a spot and stock on them. And we talked about that on the way down here, along with previously just group discussion. This is kind of what we need to do to change it up a little bit. So we did do that Saturday night, the first evening sit. We got as high as what we could, and honestly, we probably couldn't have got much higher in that tree.
No, because we were getting to the point where it was, we were at the very tippy top.
It was unsafe, and then like the canopy just got so thick, you wouldn't be able to see very much. So we got up as high as what we could, and we sat there and glassed, and it was a red moon, the start of the red moon, I believe.
Yep.
So it seemed like deer were coming out a little bit sooner than the night before even. And this is where Matt was talking earlier. We glassed up a really, really nice buck on the neighbor's property, and he came out a whole hour earlier. He just stood up out of the beans.
2 hours before legal.
Legal, but an hour earlier than what we had seen the bucks come out in the field the night prior.
Night before, yeah.
So, like Matt said, that deer was across the property line by 40-ish yards. But he set up really good that where we were at with our wind and the terrain features in front of us, we could have put a spot and stock on him without a doubt.
He was the easiest buck in our mind that we saw. So we saw 7 bucks. I don't know if I even mentioned that.
We have not yet.
We saw 7 bucks opening evening. Now, not all of them. 2 of the 7 were on neighboring properties. Unfortunately, the biggest out of all, I mean, we're talking 140 plus type of deer, maybe even in the low 50s. I mean, beautiful, beautiful 10-point. We saw him, like Kevin said, 30, 40, 50 yards basically off the property line. And the way the setup was, he was by far the easiest deer for us to get to. And there was even a time where he probably 10 yards towards us. He started coming towards us, and I even looked at Kevin. I think we both had the same thought, if this old boy hops this fence, he's in trouble. And he was just, like I was saying, not to repeat myself a million times, but he was just in a spot that was easy to get to. We could have bumped him trying to get to him. I could have missed him, but I feel I was more confident in that than the spot. And then the spot that we did end up going after him. So
and two, he was kind of in this low spot in the field. So once we got on ground level, there's no way he could have seen us.
He couldn't have seen us. No. And we could have. There was a nice little pine tree in between us and him, and we could have just used that pine tree for cover, snuck up there, and got on our tippy toes and probably shot him. But going back to the ethics thing, that's something that we're not really interested in doing, and I hope anyone listening is also on that same page. That I don't care if he's 5 yards, I don't care if he's a foot over the property line. He's still over the property line.
Unless you have permission to hunt on that property, he is 100% off limits.
That is no different than poaching in my mind. And I think legally, that would be considered poaching. So we kind of just ignored him, even though we glassed him for it seemed like an hour. It probably wasn't that, but we glassed him for a long time, and beautiful deer, and I would have loved to, harvest him, but we ended up kind of shifting our attention other places, and we, throughout the night, he was the first one to stand up, but throughout the night, deer started jumping up from the beans and standing up and
coming out of the cover and stuff,
feeding and stepping out of fence rows, and so we ended up seeing, like I said, seven bucks, 2 on the neighbors, 5 on us. Two of the bucks that were on us were shooters, and we ended up making a spot and stalk. I think it was a good play on our end. I just think that the deer, they had different idea of what they wanted to do.
Well, and explain what we think that they wanted to do then too.
Yeah. So we were up, and this is legitimate, not for these guys that say they climb 30 feet. We were probably 25, 30 feet, because I got a 30-foot pull rope that was like stretched at the top when I was lowering stuff down for Kevin. So we're 25, 30 foot up in this tree, probably closer to that 30-foot mark, and we're glassing this giant bean field bottom. And Kevin, in the farthest corner of the property, normally where they always come out at, like we were anticipating them to come out there, Kevin says, Matt, I think there's some deer. And then he throws his bino, bucks, 2 bucks. So like 1 buck stepped out of the brush, and then another one stepped up behind him, and I threw my binos up immediately, and I'm like, shooters, like without a doubt, shooters. So I told Kevin, I said, climb down the tree as fast as you can while being safe, and I'll lower my bow to you. We left everything in the tree. I'm going to glass them while you're climbing down. So I kept my binos on them, and we're 400 yards from these deer, so they have no clue in the world that we're even in the, they have no clue. And I'm watching them feed. They never even perk interest towards us. They're just feeding around, doing their thing. Kevin gets to the base of the tree. His feet hit the ground, and I then basically just shift over to his platform, which the sticks were right below his platform, and I give one last look. And I kind of messed up the story. Before I shifted to Kevin's platform, I was glassing them, and they were heading a direction we didn't want them to go. Which there's another secluded, probably 30, 40 acre field that we even can't see, and because it's kind of in a bottom, and it's, a
lot of like fence row around it.
Yeah, and there's some fence row around it, and you just cannot see it. Can't see it from the road, can't see it from the farmer's house, can't even see it from in the middle of the field where we were, can't see it. So normally, 9 times out of 10, them deer will, they will work towards us if they come out in that corner, which is what we wanted. But unfortunately, they had different ideas, and I think now looking back at it with the wind, I think they came out to scent check that bottom field, which would have made sense for a north wind, and then fed around for 5-10 minutes, and by the time me and Kevin got down to the base of the tree, they had already boogied over to the other field that we just, it doesn't lay out good to a spot and stalk. You'd have to go through a fence row that's 10 yards wide, they'd hear you coming, and the wind's not right, etc. But long story short, when I jumped over on Kevin's platform, I glassed one more time and I didn't see them. But there is a possibility that they just turned and started coming towards us in a low spot that I just couldn't see. And that was
that's what we were hoping.
That was my gut feeling, was like, all right, they just turned, they're coming towards us, let's go. So we jump down, we basically jump out of the tree, we hit the ground running, and we cover 400 yards in a matter of minutes. And we finally get to probably 150 yards from where they're at, and we really slow down, really take our time, and we're sneaking. We get to the point where we can just start to glass a little bit of the field. We're probably within 80, 90 yards of where they were, and we'd go 10, 15 yards, and we'd glass. We'd go 10, 15 yards, glass. And then towards the end, we were going feet glassing, and we kind of poked around the corner of where we could finally see the bottom, or all of that field, and there was a doe, a fawn, and a spike buck in the field, and that was it. So that was frustrating because our plan worked. We didn't booger any deer that we know of, and our targets were just not there.
Yeah, they had moved on to the field that they probably wanted to be final destination.
They wanted to be in that bottom field, which we just couldn't get to, which is frustrating. But, we could have shot. I could have shot the doe, could have shot the fawn, could have shot the spike buck. They all came within 40 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin was, a couple feet behind me. He couldn't really get good footage or see them very well. But long story short, there's a little chunk of CRP, kind of just like a brush line, basically, that we're trying to tuck ourselves into because, what we wanted the bucks to do, the doe and fawn were doing,
mm-hmm.
and she was coming right at us. And I didn't want to, if it was them bucks, I would have told Kevin to just, crawl up next to me and I'm going to draw. And when they get within 40 yards, they're toast,
mm-hmm.
because we were tucked up behind some brush and they probably would have seen us. But by the time that they seen us, the arrow would have let go.
Yeah.
So long story short, Kevin and I both agreed we need to tuck ourselves into this brush so that this doe and fawn doesn't bust. While we were kind of trying to backtrack a little bit, she had heard something. When a deer is at 40 yards and you're trying to move on them, she's going to hear you. She never blew. She never really came in to investigate too much. She got nervous and just kind of turned around and took her fawn the other way.
Yeah, just kind of hopped off a little bit, and then they ended up just walking off.
Yeah, she didn't blow. She didn't do nothing. She just was like, I don't like that noise over there. I'm going to turn around. So then that stupid spike buck, too curious to know what's good for him, he came in within, definitely bow range, was doing the old telescopic look while he was trying to figure out what we were in the brush. And I think finally I just moved or stood up or something just to get him out of there. And, he never blew or anything. He just kind of bounded 5-10 yards, stopped, turned around, looked at us, and then just walked away.
Mm-hmm.
But as he did that, another small buck stepped out into the field. So it was really promising because Kevin and I thought, well, maybe we'll just stick around a little bit. And, them shooters that we saw, 20 minutes ago, maybe they'll step out.
Yeah.
And we stuck around for probably too long. We probably should have moved on, but we were just hoping.
Well, we were just kind of hoping either they bedded down again for whatever reason, we're stand back up, or they went back into the wood line and they came back out with these smaller bucks.
Yeah, or even another. There's a lot of. We've been getting pictures of a lot of decent
mm-hmm.
deer. So even potentially a different buck stepping out. It doesn't have to be a 130. It could have been a 100-inch or full fuzzy in my mind. They would have got it. So unfortunately, it just didn't happen. And we got some pictures of some deer this morning that were in there. So we're. One thing I kind of want to touch base on is the reason why we're being so aggressive on this property, and kind of to echo off what Kevin was saying, was in the past we've always had a week to hunt down here. So we've always it's day one. Let's be a little bit more patient,
Yeah, you don't want to blow the place out.
Yeah, day two we'll go in another 100 yards closer. Day three we'll go in 100 yards closer, and odds are they'll eventually work by wherever we're at. Well, what happened is, or I should say what happens is, we've come to the conclusion that these deer are, especially where we're at, it's kind of in the boonies, middle of nowhere, no cell phone service, etc. And what happens is these deer are not used to any kind of ground scent or any kind of foreign scent other than the 2 or 3 farmhouses that are within earshot of the place. And what we figured out is every time we walk back there, we do have to walk, hundreds of yards to get to where we want to be, just to do an observation set.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we want to get to where the deer are actually at, we got to go another 400 or 500 yards to get to them. This is a giant field. So the problem is, them deer, they get a whiff of something that they've never smelt before, especially in that area. And after 2 or 3 times of us walking back there and climbing trees and then walking back at night, they don't tolerate it, and then they quit using the field.
Mm-hmm.
So we had talked, Go ahead, Kev.
I was going to say, then they become nocturnal.
Yeah, and 100% then they become the nocturnal deer that you know everybody talks about. But and it's because of our pressure. It's because of us going back there. So we, on the way down, and even weeks before the trip, you know, we told ourselves, like, hey, if there's an opportunity, we're going to go after it because we've only got a couple days to hunt. If we're either going to kill them or we're going to bust them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no sense in waiting back, you know, for 3 days, and then they don't even come out into the field during daylight anyways because they're nervous about the ground scent that we've left for the last 3 days. So...
yeah, we at least wanted to put ourselves in a position where we had an opportunity.
Yep.
Whether we blew it, you know, or we were successful at it.
It's black and white. We never threw out the option of a successful stalk, but the deer not being there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's still an option. So there's 3 options. They either stay there and we booger them, we kill them, or they move on without us knowing before we get there. So, and I think that was the option that they did last night. I just think they moved off. I truly think now, thinking back, that before I even started climbing down the tree, I think that they were heading that way. Because when I lost them with my binos, I just assumed that they dropped down in that low spot. But I truly think that they just...
So every other deer that we glassed that night kind of stood up or came out into the beans and just fed in, you know, an area that they were in. They didn't move very far.
Yeah.
One buck moved far, but the other 7 or 8 deer that we seen total
didn't move.
Yeah. So we just kind of, these bucks came out, we assumed, okay, they're going to do the exact same thing or work up, kind of how Matt talked earlier, work up into the field towards us. You know, that'd be even a better scenario for us. But we didn't really think about, hey, these guys want to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because none of the other deer really wanted to be.
Yep. So, yeah, so unsuccessful first day, basically, but...
yeah, but I wouldn't call it unsuccessful.
No.
Unsuccessful as in a harvest, but a successful night of hunting.
Yes, 100%. And I kind of want to elaborate a little bit on why we were in that tree to begin with, because most people would probably be like, well, why didn't you just get within, you know, bow range of where the good spot is, where they came out? It's hard to explain, but you have to blow out so much to get to that spot that sometimes it's not worth it. And then also the wind, with the north wind, it's kind of tricky. We had to really like cross our T's and dot our I's on where our wind was going and how you would have to access that back corner without blowing everything out. It's almost too risky the first evening. If, you know, Monday evening, it might be a different story. We might just run back there, and what it is what it is. But the first evening...
you don't want to run past 3/4 of the field of the property to hunt a quarter of it.
Exactly. And to elaborate on that more, yes, if the buck you want to kill is back there, yes, I do agree, go back there. But on Friday night, we glassed 2 shooters and their little brother that were in a completely different opposite side of the field. So we wanted an opportunity at them too. Like, hey, if we're going to get into a neutral spot where we can glass A and we can glass B, and whichever gives us the first opportunity, whether it's A or B, that's where we're going. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, A gave us the opportunity last night, and by the time we climbed down and went over there, they had moved off. So I firmly believe that we didn't bump any deer. I'm pretty honest. Like, if I felt like we messed up, I would say. I really don't think that we messed up.
I don't think so, because more than likely those does and fawns and those smaller bucks wouldn't have came out in there. You know, if those bucks would have seen us, they would have got nervous or smelled us or whatever the case may be. They would have got nervous, they would have blew, and they would have boogied out of there pretty quick.
And all the other deer would have followed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other deer that were in the field when we showed up there were natural.
Yeah, they were just feeding.
Yes.
They weren't nervous
It was just another night for them.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was anything we did wrong. It was just, like you said, they just wanted to be somewhere else, and they just happened to come out in that corner where we could see them, and then they moved on to their final, or where they initially wanted to be feeding.
And it makes a lot of sense that, you know, they both were mature deer. You know, they didn't have the biggest headgear on them, but, you know, 3.5, 4.5-year-old deer.
they'd been around enough
they'd
to know
been
what's
around,
going on.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes perfect sense that how they came out, how they fed around for 5-10 minutes, and then what they were doing was they were just scent checking that bottom field that they wanted to get to. Once they scent checked it for a while and realized that they're good, they just tucked into this little tree line and off they went. So yeah, I don't know. I think the plan for tonight's hunt is the same concept. We're going to maybe try to get a little bit closer. We do risk the fact of potentially bumping the biggest deer that we saw last night, but if he's not on us, it doesn't matter,
right?
In my mind. So I don't know. I'm really one of them guys that I don't like to have like a 100% game plan in my mind before I go hunting, because sometimes I feel like in your mind, if you're so dead set on this is the tree I want to get to,
that's what you're going to do.
That's what you're going to do no matter what, whether it's the right play or not. Like, everything's so situational that, like, we have an idea of where we want to be, but I'm not banking on being anywhere until we actually step foot on the property, see what the wind's doing, you know.
Right. Like I was going to say, here at the cabin at least, it's very calm compared to yesterday.
Yeah, it was very windy yesterday.
So that plays a big factor.
Yeah. And then just like, I'm a big component on, like, just gut feeling too. If we're walking in and all of a sudden I get this gut feeling like, hey, we need to get in this tree, probably just going to get in that tree and just see what happens. So, if the good Lord wants us to harvest something the next couple of days, he'll let it happen. And if not, we'll just be as tickled as, of course I'd like to kill a deer, but
yeah, but we're hunting.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just exciting to be out there hunting, glassing deer. And
we saw 7 bucks.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the best nights I've ever had on that farm. Normally you see a handful of deer, but we're not in a very high density area. So, like, there's not 100 deer running around.
Plus we saw 3 shooters.
Yeah,
That's always a good feeling.
Yeah, exactly. That just means that we just need one of them to make a mistake. I'd shoot 4 technically, because Friday night, none of the bucks that we saw were that big one on, well, 5 actually. Because the 2 that we saw Friday night were not.
No, they were different deer than what we seen opening night.
Were not the same deer as we saw opening night. So I'm hoping that sooner or later, one of those 5 bucks is going to make a mistake. And hopefully we're just
in the right spot and can capitalize on it.
Yeah, not dumb and don't mess it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll probably wrap up. How long are we into this, Kev?
Just under 40 minutes.
Yeah. I mean,
that's pretty much all we did for, Friday night when we got down here, and then opening day.
Yeah, and I would just echo that, the Simon Bros are down here, so check out their content. I know that they do a really good job with the YouTube format, and they have a decent podcast. So, check that out.
Yeah.
We made some food.
We just got done cooking a pork loin for dinner for tonight, so when we get back, we can put it in the microwave, I'm sure, and
we'll just
eat it fast because
throw it in the microwave.
We don't get back till late.
10 o'clock we get back. By the time legal's up, we pack all our stuff out of the tree, climb down 30 foot, drive too far to come to this cabin, and that's the only downfall to being down here right now is I've never stayed within or longer than 20-25 minutes from where we hunt, and we're way farther than that.
Yeah.
We're an hour top, maybe even more.
It's a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, we're an hour from where we hunt, which is fine.
It just makes for late nights and early mornings. Like the other morning when we got up, we wanted to be there before legal so that we could see what we're doing. We got up at 4, which I know some guys get up at 4 for work, but
not me,
not us.
Yeah,
So plus we've been staying up later, just hanging out at deer camp too.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help to the limited sleep we've been getting.
We're old men. We can admit it. We're getting old.
Getting cranky.
Yep. I'd take a couple. Kevin's lifesaver. He had some Motrin in his bag, and I yelled. He was over there messing with the pork loin, and I yelled across the cabin, "You got any Tylenol or anything?" Kevin, he's got a little med kit that he carries around, and he's always got the good stuff in there. So I popped 2 of them, and I'm starting to feel a little better. So I'm happy that you have that.
Yeah.
Because my head was throbbing.
No, that's how mine gets too. So I always take that on trips.
Did you notice that I think you owe me a thank you as well.
I didn't get any poison ivy as of yet, but I'm going to keep checking.
So the tree that we climbed for the observation, this will be the last little tidbit. Kevin and Jerry are like, I don't want to say deathly allergic.
No, I wouldn't say deathly allergic. Just last time we were both down here, what we are hunting is fence rows essentially for the most part, and poison ivy just thrives in that stuff, especially down here for whatever reason. So back home, we both get poison ivy, but it's like, I would say average. Everybody that gets poison ivy, you break out in a little spot, you get itchy, you move on from it. It was a little bit different last time we were down here.
Also, the poison ivy down here is a different variety. So, like, to us, it's
we're not acclimated to this.
Yeah, it feels, we think that it's, Jerry always says it's different. It's bred different. And there is some truth to that. Like, it's just not the same poison ivy that we have back home, so our bodies react
differently to it.
But I, personally, do not get poison ivy at all back home.
Mm-hmm.
Down here, I'll just get little spots, like those little bubbles, So, like, I told Kevy, I said, why don't you just start unpacking your bag and I'll clean this tree for you. And there was quite a bit of ivy on that
you
thing.
did a good job.
I got you, Kev. And you have to thank old Shanna for getting you the old ivy cream.
Cream in case I need it.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
So,
okay.
I think that'll wrap it up for the episode 1 of the semi-live podcast. We'll have 2 more for you guys in this series, unless we kill tonight, and then maybe just one more.
Just one more.
Yeah.
That'd be all right.
Yeah. All right.
All righty. Remember, doesn't matter what you have done in the past, you can always be born again, and born again is out.
Peace.